Daniel was the love of my life. You hear people say that, but for me it was bone deep. I loved him in that quiet, all-consuming way that makes you feel both safe and electrified. We'd met in college, same lit class, and he made it a point to sit beside me every day after our first debate on The Great Gatsby. He said I argued like a woman who knew how to burn things down. I told him that was probably a red flag. We were together 2 years before the proposal. We talked about marriage often, usually while tangled up in each other or making midnight pancakes in my cramped apartment. He said he'd wait until I was ready. I think he knew I'd never really feel ready, so he just did it, storm and all. There was only one person who didn't smile when I told her the news. My sister. Caitlin was 2 years older than me, prettier in that effortless, intimidating kind of way. While I was all elbows and dry wit, she had that charm that turned heads in grocery stores. We weren't close growing up, she always felt more like a distant cousin I lived with, but I still wanted her to like Daniel. She said she did. At first. He's cute, she'd said, after meeting him at our mom's birthday dinner. A little quiet, but I like that. Seems loyal. That last word stuck with me. The way she said it. Like she was testing something. At the time, I didn't think much of it. I should've. The first sign that something was off came a few weeks after our engagement. Caitlin started showing up unannounced. Once at my apartment while I wasn't home, Daniel let her in. When I got back from work, she was sitting cross-legged on our couch, flipping through my books, drinking wine like it was her place. I was just in the neighborhood, she said. You don't mind, right? Daniel looked uncomfortable. I brushed it off. That happened more than once. She'd linger too long, laugh too hard at his jokes, make these comments, little jabs that I kept telling myself were harmless. If you screw this one up, I'm taking him. He needs someone to cook for him properly. You're not still burning pasta, are you? She always smiled after, like it was a joke. Daniel always laughed too. Nervous, maybe. Maybe not. But I kept pretending it was nothing. Until it wasn't. Until the night everything shattered, and I found myself staring at my sister across a table, her lipstick smudged, Daniel's jacket still wrapped around her shoulders. And that was the night I disappeared from both their lives. I'll tell you what happened. But not all at once. You need to understand who we were before you see who we became. It was a Thursday. I remember that detail because I'd had the worst shift at work. I was waitressing at this little Italian place near campus, and a kid had vomited marinara all over my shoes. I came home sticky and exhausted, dreaming of a shower and maybe crawling into Daniel's arms if he wasn't too tired himself. The apartment was quiet when I walked in. Too quiet. I called out his name. Nothing. Our bedroom door was shut, which was weird. He never closed it unless he was napping, but the lights were off. I set my keys down, kicked off my shoes, and walked toward the door. And then I heard it. A sound I wish I could forget. That low, breathless laugh she only made when she thought no one could hear her. My sister's laugh. I didn't barge in. I didn't make a scene. I just stood there, frozen, listening. A few whispered words. His voice. Her voice. Then silence. And that was all it took. When the door opened, maybe 5 minutes later, maybe 5 years, time had stopped for me. Caitlin stepped out first. Her hair was messy, her cheeks flushed. She was wearing his hoodie. The one I had folded and left on our bed that morning. She looked at me and didn't even flinch. "Oh," she said, like she'd bumped into a neighbor at the mailbox. "You're home early." I didn't say anything. I couldn't. My throat had locked up. I looked at her, then past her, to Daniel, standing in the doorway behind her with guilt smeared across his face like blood. He started. "Don't," I said. Just that. One word. Like a dam finally cracked open and water came gushing through. I turned and walked straight to our closet, grabbed a bag, threw in whatever I could grab, socks, underwear, a handful of shirts. My toothbrush. I remember thinking I needed my toothbrush like that would fix something. Caitlin followed me into the room, arms crossed like she had every right to be there. "It's not what you think," she said. That made me laugh. I actually laughed. "Really?" I turned to face her. "Then tell me what it is." She didn't answer. Of course not. Because there was no version of this that didn't make her look like the villain. Daniel stood behind her like a ghost, silent and small. He didn't say a word. Not one. That silence? That was my closure. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I walked out with my duffel bag, left the engagement ring on the kitchen counter, and shut the door. And then I disappeared. I didn't just leave Daniel. I left the city. dropped out of my last semester, changed my number, blocked them both on every platform. No goodbye. No dramatic texts. Just gone. For a while, I crashed at a friend's place in Colorado. I told her everything. She said, you could burn their world down if you wanted. But I didn't want revenge. I wanted peace. I wanted quiet. I wanted to stop hearing Caitlin's laugh when I closed my eyes. It would take me a long time to get there. To silence that laugh. But I would. Because what they didn't know was, I wasn't done. Not by a long shot. It's strange how grief doesn't always come from death. Sometimes it comes from betrayal so deep, it feels like someone reached inside your chest and carved your name out. That's what the years after felt like, ghost years. I was still alive, still breathing, but everything felt quieter. Like I was moving through water. I settled in Boulder. Got a job at a local bookstore with a cafe attached, easy hours, quiet customers, and no one who asked questions. I introduced myself as Anna, dropped my real name like a coat I never wanted to wear again. It was easier that way. Cleaner. My real friends, those few who hadn't known Daniel, or hadn't cared enough to ask why I vanished, stuck around through occasional texts. Everyone else faded, just like I needed them to. I heard things, though. Caitlin never could stay quiet for long. A mutual friend, Jen, messaged me one night after too much wine. You don't have to respond, she wrote, but I thought you should know, your sister is engaged. To him. I stared at that message for a long time. Not surprised. Not really. But the finality of it scraped something raw in me. Caitlin didn't just take him. She replaced me. My life, my ring, probably even my old wedding Pinterest board if I had to guess. And Daniel, he was never strong enough to resist what was easy. That's all she ever had to be. Easy. I didn't cry. I didn't even get angry. That's what scared me the most. I was going numb. Until the envelope showed up. No return address. Postmarked from Michigan. Inside was an invitation. Cream cardstock. Gold lettering. Together with their families, Caitlin Grace Monroe and Daniel Matthew James invite you to celebrate. There it was. Proof. They were really doing it. But that wasn't what made my hands shake. It was the note. Handwritten, folded into the envelope. From Caitlin. I didn't want things to end like they did. You should come. We're family. It's time to let it go. Let it go. Let it go. I sat on my floor with that card in my lap for over an hour, trying to decide if it was some twisted joke or if she really believed the past was just something I could file away like old receipts. But something in me sparked. It wasn't rage. It was clarity. They thought I had disappeared. But I'd just been waiting. Rebuilding. Because the truth? You can only push a woman so far before she starts pulling strings. And I had just decided. I was going to their wedding. Not for revenge. For the truth. For closure. For me. It was in a vineyard, of course. All white roses and rustic wood and those glass lanterns hanging from tree branches like curated stars. Caitlin always wanted something that looked effortless but cost 5 figures. Daniel, he was just background noise by then. A prop in a suit. I didn't RSVP. I didn't need to. I showed up in a dark green dress that hit just above the knee, hair slicked back, lipstick the color of blood. I wasn't invited, but I wasn't hiding either. When the usher asked for my name, I smiled and said, Caitlin's sister. He paled. Stepped aside. Half the crowd recognized me. I saw it in their faces, shock, curiosity, a couple nervous glances like I might set the place on fire. And maybe, for a second, I wanted to. But I didn't come to ruin anything. I came so they'd see I survived. I took a seat near the back, waited. When Caitlin walked down the aisle, her arm looped through our uncle's, she glanced out at the crowd, and froze. Just for a second. Just long enough for me to see the flicker of disbelief. She didn't think I'd come. Good. The ceremony was a blur of recycled vows and shallow smiles. Daniel kept looking everywhere but at me. Typical. Still the same coward. When the officiant said, speak now or forever hold your peace, I didn't move. That wasn't my moment. I waited for the reception. They had a slideshow playing during dinner, pictures of the two of them smiling in fake candid shots, holding wine glasses, kissing under string lights. Then suddenly, one photo appeared I hadn't expected, a shot of the 3 of us. Me, Daniel, Caitlin. From years ago. Thanksgiving. Caitlin must have dug through my old albums. I let myself feel it, just for a second. That ache. That grief. That flash of this wasn't how it was supposed to go. Then I stood. Walked toward their table. Every eye followed me. Caitlin stiffened. Daniel blinked like he might actually faint. I stopped just short of the head table. Held up my glass. To the happy couple, I said. Calm. Even. I hope you get everything you deserve. Caitlin opened her mouth, probably to perform some damage control, but I kept going. I just wanted to say thank you, I said. For showing me exactly who you both are. Daniel muttered, this isn't the time. I looked at him. Really looked. You're right, I said. The time was 2 years ago. When you let my sister crawl into your bed and then acted like I was the one who made things messy. Gasps rippled through the tables. Caitlin hissed, you're embarrassing yourself. I smiled. No. I did that already, by trusting either of you. But I'm done with shame. You can keep each other. I turned to walk away. 1 step. 2. Then I stopped. By the way, I said over my shoulder, the dress you're wearing? It's almost identical to the one I would have worn. I didn't wait for her reaction. I left. I walked through that vineyard like a woman reborn. Head high. Back straight. Heart pounding, but not broken. Because I wasn't her anymore. I wasn't the girl who begged for love or tiptoed around betrayal. I was the woman who walked away. And meant it. Let them drink their champagne and dance to their lie of a future. I had my own beginning to write now. And it didn't include either of them.